The town is recording this meeting. If anyone else is recording it, please let us know.
Think anyone cares.
Yeah. I think you could be right about that one. Okay. All right, so Sebastian Gu, I am here. Jane, you want to make yourself?
I'm here. Gene Wall.
Very good.
John
John,
Reynolds
what-
here.
Great. Any public comment? No. Approval of minutes from 12/17/24.
So I move we approve the minutes.
Okay, we have, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Gene Wall, yes.
John Anhalt, yes.
Sebastian Dubine, yes. All right, new business, Safe Routes to School updates. John, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I'm doing the minutes too, so just give me a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not a whole lot to update. I did copy you, Bosch, and Christian on emails to Athena, the grant writer who had previously worked on this. So what I understand happened in the past, there was a grant that was developed, worked on to replace the sidewalks in the vicinity of Greenfield Middle School. I think it was something like $700,000 in sidewalks, multiple blocks. And ultimately it was not supported by the schools. And it had to do with some of the other programming that would be required to support the grant that the schools couldn't support at that time. So going forward, as this kind of, as I briefed it, they were just closing out the last yearly cycles grant applications. So as this cycle is starting up, there's a like a webinar coming up maybe in a week. I don't remember the exact date, but I signed up for it. Athena signed up for it. So we're going to listen to that and kind of see what the ground rules are for this year. And then reconvene after that to come up with a strategy moving forward, if we do move forward.
Okay. So, you said it wasn't supported last time?
It's my understanding that the schools, it's got to be basically co-signed between the city and the school district, and the schools did not support the grant last time.
Was
an
it because-
infrastructure grant was developed.
Was it because they had to put money into it? Is that why they didn't support it?
At least currently, by my reading, there's no money that has to go into these unless there's some local maintenance or easement type of work that has to be done, in advance. But it's generally a zero input grant. It was programming, right? So it was a time investment from the teachers from the schools to have certain, ancillary components to it that the schools didn't sign off on at that time.
Got it.
So, that's, there was, we started, there's discussion about, this was pursued in the past and it didn't, go anywhere. So that's kind of what I have, for that. And, grant rules change, people on the commission change, people at the school district change. So I think, probably take a fresh look after this webinar. Maybe we're in a positive environment now.
Great, thanks, John.
Sure.
Any other Questions or discussion? And I do think that seems like this school board does have goes through waves of having energy and not energy, right, around depending what else is going on. So,
And it
Just
may
like any
depend-
organization.
And it may depend on union rules too.
no, yeah.
They may not want to be involved.
I guess the one other thing I'd add is that's potentially to the positive is, the last couple of years they have run a bike rodeo, which is an educational component of this program. So it seems like perhaps what was objected to in the past is happening today. So, we'll see.
And a lot of the sidewalks going to the middle school have been redone.
It looks like they were done anyways. It looks like that was
Yeah.
probably something that the city was working towards, and without the grant, it was still done, but it probably came out of, city funds instead of, we had this opportunity to get it out of federal highway funds.
Right.
Okay, Main Street redesign discussion. I heard something about a discussion about a roundabout in
Yeah,
Main Street.
just to catch everyone up to speed where the Main Street redesign is at. Plus O'Neill partnered with the city to put together the plans to submit to Mass DOT for the Main Street redesign for the tip. So that would be going out for a project. Right now it's 2029, could potentially get moved up a year or two. And so now that's been submitted to DOT. So DOT is doing their review of the proposal. And as far as I know, they're still reviewing it. The only thing that I've heard is what everyone else heard was DOT asked if the city might have a preference to put a roundabout at Bank Row, Main Street, and Federal.
And it got a unanimous no.
And it was a unanimous no from basically any party you could have asked. So pretty quickly, the mayor has responded to DOT on that and said, no, that's not our preference. So beyond that, it's still being reviewed. So once that gets kind of through that part of the review process, then things will start to happen, things we can start moving on. But at that point, that's where we're at. So, yeah.
Will all the construction on Main Street make a difference? Because we've got Wilson's and now that other apartment down the street. Will that slow it down?
Slow down the Main Street redesign. I don't think they're going to be happening at the same time. I think Wilson's will be happening pretty shortly, at least for the housing portion of it. The ones down one near 170, was it 176 Main in that block? That's still a few years out, but I think it'll probably fall in the time frame between when the redesign is happening and now. And then it'd be the redesign. So it'd be kind of a slow churn of a bunch of different construction projects happening, which is its own beast to deal with year after year. Definitely being cognizant of that in the economic development department and
Yeah.
supporting businesses through this.
Right.
Wouldn't both those projects kind of be on hold right now anyways? Isn't, Wilson's kind of waiting for an adjudication on Cleary Jewelers lease. And then the other Main, the 173 Main Street, if I got the number right, the one
Yeah,
next
176,
to
I think.
Co-op.
Yeah.
Yeah, weren't they dependent on the zoning change that got voted down at council for ground floor residential?
Yeah, they're still pretty far out. But yeah, they are kind of part and parcel of the zoning changes on whether what form that project takes. But they did go before the planning board for their initial kind of review already, I believe. So they're moving along, design wise anyway, construction wise, a few years out.
Is there any sort of like larger plan on the Complete Street project or the Main Street project? Like, I understand like the roundabout thing came up, you know, because MassDOT brought it up, but is there like, you know, doesn't have to be like somebody formally presenting to us, but is there like a current anything in the shape of drawings or current status or the 30, 60, 90 of the design that, you know, we could have information on at a meeting?
Yeah, so there's definitely the draft that was submitted to DOT. It's been with DOT for a bit now. I could check in with Marlo and just see what he thinks the timeline is. And depending on what that timeline is, if it's like next month, we're gonna get back information from DOT. I don't think it'll be worth it to talk about the draft because at that point we'd have very shortly have a new draft. But if it's still a few months of them reviewing it, then I think it would be worthwhile to just be looking over the draft that exists currently.
Yeah, I'm just generally curious for more information because it certainly interfaces with a lot of other things we talk about here. So,
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should have, you know, buy-in on it, but I think awareness would be really good.
And once we kind of get past this stage with DOT, there's gonna be a lot more, like we're gonna be planning on putting out together a web page on the city website with all the info. So it'll be very public facing. It's been public facing with charrettes and all that. But even to a greater degree as we get closer to it.
And the 2029 date is the potential start.
I think it would take place during the construction would be 1 year, so 2029, and it can get moved up. As you guys all might remember, the Wisdom Way reconstruction that was originally probably this year actually, and it got moved up to 2 years ago, and it got done already. So that's what happens when you put together plans that are ready to go. You get moved up. That's what we've tried to do.
And we've done all,
Already,
yep, we've done all of the stuff, changing the pipes. That's completely done. right?
Yep. The city's done a lot of work with utilizing CDBG grants and other grants to televise the lines and put the plans together so we can put them out to bid with capital and other grant funding. So for the most part, the water and sewer, especially on Main Street itself, is all done. Berkshire Gas is doing their own thing to get their pipes done, so we don't have to dig up Main Street right after it gets repaved. It should be nice and clean for quite a bit.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a collective idea that when we realized that we're going to be redoing Main Street, it's like, all right, give it a few years, let's get everything done now, so we don't have to dig it up. It just makes so much sense.
Right.
Right. So, right, it'd be great. Always great to see the plans.
Yeah, I can.
Are there any up? So there's a traffic circle. I'm intrigued by that. Like, I did go to the town. We did a planning project in the town recently. Not just kind of like a tour and a Shrek kind of thing, but they had a central roundabout, and it was actually really nice.
But how do you cross the street is what I
Oh,
understand.
you go across. It didn't feel any different than crossing a crosswalk.
Yeah.
Right. It didn't.
Because to me, that was what everybody got upset
I know,
about.
it really did not feel any different. It felt safer. I mean, so I think that's what people, are get concerned about, but it would be interesting to see, like,
Well, if you had a middle to stand in, it would be a lot safer.
well, it's not a middle, because you basically go around. So the lanes are much shorter. So you have to cross, but is that what you mean by middle? So they're not like an island, but
Yeah,
not the
an
central
island.
island,
Yeah.
but all the little islands around the edge. Yeah. But anyway,
Good.
water under the bridge.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's
the
over.
mayor's given her response
Yeah.
based on the public feedback. So
It seemed like it was pretty clear. I just wonder about whether there was a lack of education in
Of
there.
course, there always
Yeah.
is. People in Greenfield always say no.
That's not always true. sometimes they say yes and then no.
I think the other factors were you're space constrained,
Yeah.
right? To do a proper size, you'd have to take Greenfield Savings Bank and,
We
I forget
give
the
them
name
the
of the coffee
national,
place.
we
but
give them
the-
the National Bank.
I think that would be very expensive. And then it's two highways, right? So sometimes there are different rules
Yeah.
that come into factor, especially federal is a federal highway.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you saw the council meeting, but it was a big, big push on fire truck, right? So it was presented from a public safety standpoint, which,
Fire trucks.
I'm not as sure about that, but
Fire trucks control so many of the designs in the world.
oh, yep.
Yeah, but then you go someplace like Europe and you say, they have fire trucks here too. And they get around.
I think that one of the important things to take away from that conversation about the roundabout was the piece that Marlo had to share about the current safety of that intersection. And there having been only one accident in the last
It's been
10 years or so. So
I did the analysis on that and I was really, so every single crosswalk along Main Street, many accidents with pedestrians. That, lighted intersection, none. Yeah, it really controls. I do feel it when I'm walking down Main Street though. It's a barrier there. I'm like, oh, should I go across the corner? Should I go across that way? I have to wait and it feels, it's a physical barrier that I feel.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel that way too.
It's a longer life because this is a scramble crossing too.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, moving on. What about the parking policy changes?
So I have great news. Theoretically, the bulk of the changes should be getting made for February 3rd, still a tentative date. So I have the draft press release in front of me, just going down the big headers for what we're going to be announcing to the public. The Pleasant Street lot being free, the removing the 4-hour time limit restriction on 3 of the lots, so you can park there all day, making it so that there's no longer the permit and kiosk division, and then reducing the cost to park at the Miles Street lot. Just for all of you to be aware of and kind of what the biggest holdup is. It's not making the signs. That's been fine. It's not reprogramming the kiosks. There is actually I didn't realize this, there's a cost to reprogram the kiosks. So we're going to do it all in one big batch. So to minimize that cost. The biggest thing is we're about to announce a bunch of changes. And several of the kiosks are out of order. So people were like, oh, new changes, I can utilize that lot now or that part of the lot now. And we don't have a kiosk that's online. So we're working with the kiosk company to see, because they haven't been up here in a couple of years, to do like a full sweep of the kiosks and see what's wrong with all of them. We have our DPW guy who's done a great job of maintaining what he can with the parts that he has. It's just eventually you fall behind when you're not the company itself. So we're working on getting a quote from them to try and do that. So these changes might get announced before they get fixed. But if anyone asks, we're working on getting the kiosks that are out of order to be fixed. But for the most part, it's pretty much ready to go. They're gonna be putting up the signs over the next couple weeks, I believe. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And how's as far as the permit purchasing going?
It's in full swing. I think the bulk of the ones that are gonna get purchased are already purchased. I know, I work pretty heavily with the treasurer's department in the mayor's office to get that going, because we have a new set of treasurer's office staff.
Okay.
But it's good to go now. It's running smoothly at this point. I wish I had it in front of me. I don't have it about how many have been purchased, but we made, I think, 200 available to the public, just like last year. So
Okay. And do we sell those out last year, the 200?
yes, they sell out. And then usually a little bit of a wait list will build up, and then we'll assess kind of what it's looking like out there, and we can issue a few more if needed.
Okay.
And then there's separate ones set aside for city staff.
And what are we doing about parking enforcement? Do we just still have the halftime?
I think the mayor has made a commitment, and the police chief has expressed support for examining and increasing the parking enforcement salary line to at least one FTE during this budget cycle. So they're gonna be looking at that for the next 3 months, obviously, and hopefully your recommendation comes out in the final budget. But I think that has a chance of happening for sure.
I hope we make lots of money from it. So they'll listen
And
to us.
And I understand that it can be two 19-hour, employees, that they don't have the fringe associated with that.
Yeah. So yeah, one FTE. So it could either be 2 half times or 1 full time. But yeah, if you have 2 half times, that part makes financial sense.
Plus when someone's sick, there's really somebody going out there.
Otherwise, let me pull up the list. The full list. I believe there's a tentative date. You had all recommended increasing the parking citation fee, the general fee from 10 to 15. I think there's a tentative date to do that July 1st. That's not confirmed. But that should be happening this year.
Is that a licensing board thing?
I think it's
Just a mayor thing.
I think it's just a mayor thing. I don't think that's in I don't think the dollar amounts in the city code. I think it just says you can. Yeah, that was all the very this is very concrete changes that are happening.
Exciting.
Yeah, I think this is going to work a lot better in the parking lots, because especially for trying to bring in tourist visitors to Greenfield, and they go to the parking lot and they see permit only.
Yeah.
What? And so now they go there and park and they go over to the kiosk and pay. They don't have to worry about that aspect. And then our permit holders will be able to park in more variety of spaces and lots. So it's a win-win in my opinion.
And will there be signs in the parking lots telling people how to get passport if they want to?
There are signs in all the parking lots now, maybe not as many as we'd want, but there are passport signs in every parking lot, except for maybe the newly repaved Legion lot. But that one might have something stuck on the kiosk, so.
And it seemed like the 200 limit had a lot to do with reserved permit spaces. So we might be able to relax that,
Potentially.
right? Because it doesn't have that the dynamics are different.
Yeah, I think the focus what is gonna need to be the focus is the Ames Street lot, because that one was not getting full, but it was the closest to getting full in the current scenario. And now that there's no protected permit spots anymore, I think we'd have to be super cautious about increasing the number, because I think it theoretically the demand could get too high there. I know we're not usually worried about that in downtown Greenfield.
But if they can't find a permit spot to park, they can
Yeah,
park at
they could go to that as
the lot, right? So I think that's, there's still like a 15-minute spaces, or are there still spaces? I know School Street, right? School Ames, the same thing, right? Okay. I thought there was some short-term parking in there as well. Is that true?
There might be. I mean, I have it parked on my map. It's just being 4-hour limit meters.
I've used that one before, and there are shorter term in that lot, and there's like another row wrapping around the corner closest to the Moose is like short-term metered type. And then I think the center row closer to the hangar is permit, and maybe half of the other side of that row. So it's a mix in that lot.
Yeah.
So I guess to kind of counteract your thought on that, it's like if Ames is getting full permit, which it used to, and we're like, okay, well, that's kind of fine, right? As long as as long as we're not promising people permits in the Ames lot,
Yeah, no.
right? Which is not what we're doing. So, great. You have a permit space, you get there at 8:30, you park, great. You get there at 10, it's full, you walk from the C&D lot.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of.
Yeah.
So therefore, if all, basically, if what we're doing with the permits is kind of like allowing people to pay ahead and avoid the hassle of having to use the app or the kiosk or all that stuff, which is kind of what we're doing.
Yep.
Then that seems like it could be fun.
And remind everyone in the public that the permits are a great deal compared to the 50 cents an hour times 40 hours a week.
Yes.
Mhm.
One asterisk to everything. I think you guys all knew this already, but the city hall lot is not getting reconfigured really. We're keeping the 4-hour section, the 30-minute section, and then there's a permit, still be a permit section.
Oh.
So
So it'll be permit only in the back there.
yeah,
It's not getting,
yeah. So the reason that can't really change is there's one spot for one kiosk, and you couldn't have 10-hour limit and 4-hour limit. The kiosk doesn't work that way. You have to have one or the other.
okay.
So plus that permit parking does completely fill up every day. So
Right.
that one's not gonna be changing, but I think it's fine.
So because of the lack of kiosks, so we could push for that in the future date.
Theoretically, if there's more kiosks purchased, we could put two back there, and then you could have two sections with two different types.
Um, or we could change the signs to say permit or passport.
Yeah.
Right, that would be a solution, right? Okay. Sorry, we don't have kiosks. If you want to park here, it's either permit or passport. No kiosk,
That would work.
right?
Yeah, that's an easy fix too, because so once we do all these main ones, if we want to look back at that and recommend that to mayor, we can look at that for sure.
I do think, I think the fact that it fills up might be a good reason to allow people to park there. To not have it always be permit.
Because it's a convenient place to park.
Convenient place to park for people.
And so
I mean,
the
they-
employees can park in the garage and walk across the street.
And there is the there are the 4-hour spots which help. Sometimes there's gonna be like. Times when people want to park longer or. There happens to be a space back there, it's open in all 4 hours. I think that would be a solution.
Good idea.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's everything that's going to be in the press release to the public. So
Okay. Right, and. The public hasn't really heard about it. So the permit holders, have they heard about this?
I have a separate not even a press release, a separate email that'll go out to them, letting them know about this change. It's
Okay.
going to be theoretically made February 3rd or afterward.
And. Okay, just so you know, like when we did the 3-month. At in December or whatever. In the past, there were some permit holders who were very upset that we were devaluing their permits. By giving away for free.
So when we announced the permit availability this year, there was a sentence about removing the restrictions.
Okay.
It was just one sentence. It wasn't the full spiel, but if they had wanted to inquire about it, they did with the treasurer's department.
Okay.
So there was notice for this year.
Anyway,
That are getting paid right now.
good to know.
Yep.
Okay. All right, anything for next meeting?
Just the Main Street stuff.
Great to know about Main Street stuff. Anything else we should be tackling? So, John, if you might get an update on the Safe Routes to School.
Yeah.
And we'll get any other updates on the parking policies?
Yep, yeah, at that point, it very well could be implemented, so
Um. We got an update? Are we done with the conversation about the, ability for um, restaurants to give or businesses to give, pay for other people's parking?
yeah, so we have the systems technically set up, it's ready to go. I haven't tested it myself, but there's two ways of doing it. One where they use the existing Passport app. You can make unlimited sessions on there as long as you use different license plates, so they can pay for their customers parking right now if they were so inclined. Second way is they can use a separate web page where they can generate tokens for people to be able to get reduced or free parking depending on what they're looking to do, and they prepay it, and then someone walks into the business and they get their code for the Passport app to get 50 cents off, $1 off,
Okay,
$3 or 4 hours, however.
okay, so that's all set.
Yeah, so it's ready to go. So the mayor's office knows, and if they get any inquiries,
So, the question is, have we advertised that with the business?
have been advertised, yeah.
Great, or, I mean, not business,
GBA, that's
Yeah,
what I would do,
GBA.
is just share that information with Hannah at GBA. And then, she can,
And we shouldn't make it a
Michelle?
public thing. We shouldn't make it a public thing in case the public then goes in and asks for parking,
Yeah.
free parking.
well, I don't know, like it's,
Well, a lot of the businesses are struggling,
Mhm.
so we wouldn't want to have them say, we went out of business because.
yeah,
pay
but
for
they, more likely to say we went out of business because parking was confusing, people couldn't get to our store.
Yeah.
Or restaurant, right, rather than we had to pay 50 cents, right?
Yeah, I'm just being the devil's advocate.
yeah,
here.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not really serious.
But I definitely talk with Hannah, and so she knows, and she can distribute it to her members as she sees.
Right. So next meeting, we'll talk about. Any other special things we talk about, then any new business that's come up that we should talk about next meeting? In February, will I be around?
So then our meeting
February
in
25th. That should be fine. For me,
it is fine for you
yep.
at 6 o'clock.
I already have the room booked.
Great.
Okay, it's on my calendar.
Okay, well, you have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
You have a second, John?
second,
Right. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
on Analyze.
Night.
Hi, John.
Good night.
Night.